Would you like to bet $20 and win $100 at BetMGM regardless of your wager's outcome and get $100 in free wager bucks? Just go to wt.buzz/MGM for more details and find out if you're eligible for this amazing offer.
Happy Friday, everybody. As we all know, Friday starts the weekend, and we are here to make your weekend a profitable one through the prop betting markets. Joining me, as always, my fellow prop masters, Matt Josephs from sportsmemo.com and Andrew McInnis from WagerTalk.com. We are going to go over all 4 NFL playoff games for this weekend. We're going to dive deep in there and find some value in the prop betting markets, and then we will have our best bets at the end of the show. And like always, we're going to start off with a few fun stats. I only got 3 this week, but let's start off with the first one. The Houston Texans have a winning point differential against the Titans this year. Yes, the Houston Texans have outscored and have a winning point differential against the number 1 seed in the AFC. Fun stat number 2, Blake Bortles has 2 playoff wins. Dak Prescott has 0. So Blake Bortles high on the playoff rankings list over Dak Prescott. And then one that's close to home here in the NBA, the Indiana Pacers have had 0 single-digit draft picks since 1990. I bring this up because we have the 5th worst record in the NBA, and we might be on pace to get our first single-digit draft pick in several decades. So, all right, gentlemen, let's bring in my 2 guys I just love to see on Fridays. Andrew McInnis, how is everything going? I know you're looking at some NHL action. We got a huge weekend in NFL. How's the week been treating you?
It's been going very well. I went through a small little slump and then worked through it very quickly, and we're back rolling again here in the NHL. So I keep preaching. I don't want to talk about short-term numbers. 72%, since that November when I got hot in the NHL, and props. Look, I said it was going to be a high volume weekend last weekend. It ended up being too high volume, but this weekend, I don't think I'll be able to resist. A lot of great spots here, and look forward to it.
Nice. That is Andrew McInnis from WagerTalk.com. Matt Josephs from SportsMemo.com. How has the last week been for you? I know we got a lot of college basketball. We got NFL. So how has everything been last week for you, sir?
Well, Tuesday I had 3 half-point losses, which was pretty fun. But since then, 8-3 over the last 2 days. So we've kind of corrected ourselves a little bit. And I got a fun stat for you. Nick Foles has more playoff wins than Carson Wentz does. But you might not have Carson Wentz as your quarterback any longer, so that'll be good for you.
Nothing like a Nick Foles Carson Wentz battle to get your day started. So would not hurt my feelings at all if we did not have him. So we do have a special here at both websites. This applies for all 3 of us, for Matt and for Andrew and for myself. You can save $20 on a 3-day pass or 7-day pass. Fridays is pretty much the best day to get a 3-day pass. You're going to get Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That's going to get you NFL plays. It's going to get NBA, NHL, college basketball, and there's no promo code required. It's just something that we've put up on the websites. It's on our Capper profile pages. So if you just go there, you just save $20. It's a really, really fantastic deal. We encourage everyone to take advantage of that. So find your favorite handicapper or handicappers and enjoy free $20 off on sportsmemo.com as well as wagertalk.com. All right, gentlemen, let's just jump right into it. We're going to go through all 4 playoff games. Matt, I'm going to come to you first. Start with the first game of the weekend, and we're going to talk the Bengals and the Titans. So what should we be looking for in this matchup?
Well, I mean, a lot of my props are geared towards the Bengals here, or at least success for the Bengals, because I think there's a good chance they win this game. I'm just, I was very impressed with Cincinnati. I was very, look, to see the 21.5 for their team total, I think they're going to go over that. I think we could see them put up 24 or 27 points in this game. I think the one thing that could prevent them from being highly successful is that a lot of them, it's their second playoff game. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and these guys, they're a very young team. And this could be a Burrow game. Look, Tennessee's really good against the run. They allowed the least amount of fantasy points to running backs all season long. And once again, and I know you're going to touch on this in your best bets, but like Joe Mixon's become a receiver now. And so I think that's something that you continue to have to ride. And the other thing, there's two other things I'm looking at here. One, which Tennessee Titans tight end is going to be the guy? Is it going to be Ferkser, who runs more routes, or is it going to be Swaim, who's more of a blocker type but plays a lot more than Ferkser does? And then the other thing I'm kind of looking at here is I want to study the Bengals corners. Chidobe Awuzi's been very good this year. If he goes and travels with somebody, I want to take their under. If he's a side guy, I don't know yet. I'm either taking A.J. Brown's receiving yards under or Julio Jones's under. I just got to kind of figure out who's going to see more Eli Apple, because while Eli Apple's been better, I don't really trust the guy. So I need to find out more about how they deploy their cornerbacks, because I want to take an under in this game.
Well, anytime you can take an under on Julio Jones, I say go for it, because he's been an under machine over the last year or so. I'm with you on that. That I think it's a Burrow type of game. Also, just a quick reminder: make sure when you're doing these bets, make sure you check the weather. So we've got some cold games. Just make sure you don't place bets and all of a sudden you just accidentally took an over on a quarterback in a game that's really windy. Weather doesn't look to be too bad of an issue. There's not a lot of wind going on. It's going to be cold for the Packers game, but everything else looks pretty good. Just double check the weather. So Andrew, coming to you, thoughts on the Bengals and the Titans. Derrick Henry, we may have a Derrick Henry sighting. So what do you expect from this game?
Well, I'm sure you're excited about seeing Derrick Henry, Andy. I know the money you've made just off him. I'm sure you've probably bought a new house off what you've made from Derrick Henry props. But look, I expect lots of points in general in this game. With the injuries to the defensive line for Cincy, with the secondary we've seen from the Titans, with both quarterbacks with the ability to put the ball in the air. I think it's going to be a really exciting game. I'm kind of, personally, I've stayed away from the side. But as far as the prop market go, I just kind of love when this stuff happens, guys. And I'm not trying to be the contrarian here. I swear to you, this was pre-planned. I took a look actually at Julio Jones over 42.5 receiving yards for this weekend. So I kind of love being that contrarian player. Look, and Matt's giving me that look. He's coming off week 18, 9 targets. He's a player that he wasn't healthy for a long time. This guy has had a lot of stuff going on. And I think he comes into this game and kind of just slides under the radar here. He had 1 or 2 deep targets. One of those he caught for 19 yards. I think he has a big week. So, and by big week, I'm not saying a monster week. He only has to get me to 43 yards. And like I said, I believe it's going to be a high scoring game on both parts. Titans had, an extra week to work on things and kind of diversify their offense, which I think helps them, which I think helps this play for me. I'm also going to take a look at Ryan Tannehill to score a touchdown, guys. You get really good odds on that. And he has been a running threat. Not many people have touched on it. He has several touchdowns on the season. And I think that, with his size and with the amount of times they're going to throw the ball and the running threats they have, depending on health, obviously, but I believe they're going to have, 2 options here. We're going to see them be able to throw people off here. I think we're going to be able to see Tannehill slip into the end zone. And then, guys, we got to discuss it. I mean, Andy, I'll throw it to you after this, but Jamar Chase, I mean, we're talking about experience. Every headline is, how can Burrow and Chase live up to the moment? And, everyone is searching for their headline right now. But when it comes down to it, everybody has their guy. Everybody has their guy, and I think that it's become very apparent that Burrow will throw the ball in any type of circle around Jamar Chase, and he's getting up there and grabbing it or doing what he can for his quarterback. So I'm looking at his receiving yards as well, expecting a pretty good game. And I think this could be an opportunity, though, to not just look towards the big guys, to go down the depth chart, because like I said, I believe both teams will be throwing the ball quite a bit.
A couple of things to just add to the Bengals and Titans. I was looking up. Ryan Tannehill has something very strange going on with his passing numbers. His total is set at 236.5. He's gone under this total 11 games this season. 3 of the games he went over were overtime games, and 2 of them were against the Houston Texans. So if you take out the Texans and overtime games, he's gone over once. So I don't really know what to do with it, but I will say the overtime games, he did get over in regulation, and they were obviously very close games because they did go to overtime. If this game is going to be close, which I believe it is, you might look at an over for Ryan Tannehill. The other thing I would take note, there's a really juicy one out there. It's 5-1. So the Bengals are the worst team in the playoffs left guarding tight ends. They were really bad in the regular season. And you might take a look at Jeff Swaim to score a touchdown if they get in deep. The Bengals have given up a lot of yards, a lot of catches, and a lot of touchdowns. And that touchdown prop is 5-1. He had a touchdown catch against Miami. He only has 3 touchdowns this year, but you get down deep into the red zone, and who knows, you got a good mismatch with one of the Tennessee tight ends. So maybe they can take advantage of the lack of defense on tight ends. So good stuff on that game. Let us move to the 49ers and the Packers. It's going to be cold. Of course, Garoppolo's got the thumb injury. Andrew, I'm going to come to you first. Let's go over the 49ers and Packers. What do you got for us?
First of all, Andy, I just love your emphasis on the fact that it's going to be cold. Like it's a surprise to anybody. It's going to be cold in this game, 100%.
But not too windy, though.
No,
it's not too windy. So at least we're not going to get the really, really bad wind. And yes, I do realize that me saying it's going to be cold in Green Bay in the winter was the least helpful piece of information I've given out on this show. So you're welcome, everybody.
Yeah, it definitely will be cold in Green Bay. Looking at the Green Bay Packers right now, and I talk about having that extra week, and we can list all these stats for the success the bye teams had. But one thing I've always preached about the Green Bay Packers, and I like, and obviously everybody knows I'm a fan of this team, is that with Aaron Rodgers and with Matt LaFleur, you have no idea who's going to be the star of kind of the secondary crew in that game. And when I look at kind of these receiving yard props here, I look at Allen Lazard and I look at, I can get him over 40.5 receiving yards, or I can take him over 3.5 receptions at a plus price. And even just, last 5 or 6 weeks of the regular season, I was able to see him progress a lot, and the targets go up for him quite a bit here. And Aaron Rodgers looked for him downfield. Now, the question is, last year on this show, how many times every week were we discussing, do we take the yards or do we take the receptions? And I was discussing that with Matt last week with a player and in DMs. And that's really the discussion. And with Lazard, I'm going to choose to look towards the receptions over 3.5 at a plus price because I believe he will get targeted. No Marquez Valdez-Scantling for the Green Bay Packers this week, so they'll need somebody else to rise up. And, Rodgers has that good relationship, I think, it seems like, and good chemistry with Lazard. So, and looking at from the running back position, I think we'll see A.J. Dillon get in the end zone, guys. And there's actually pretty good value on that. We talk about some of these props being like minus 140 for a guy to score a touchdown. Even in the playoffs, some of these guys are favorites listed to score a touchdown. And I've always said that, hey, every now and then I have no problem taking a guy that scores every week, at a minus 120 to score a TD. But in this week in particular, I think we're getting pretty good value with Dillon. We have seen the Green Bay Packers just march the field and then struggle, to convert. And we know what happened last year at one point in the playoffs. And I don't want to get into that, especially this early in the playoffs on these third downs. So I think they're going to try and mix it up, not just throwing the ball constantly. Hopefully, try and mix in that running game for me. And then we got to talk about Debo. I mean, I'll let you guys discuss the rest, but that's the one play I really wanted to give out. This is kind of the game I have the least props on, surprisingly. But Debo Samuel, can we ignore it? Is there a number that they would put out for him in this game, receiving yards, that I would want to, not look at? I mean, these guys are rushing and receiving. It's unbelievable what they're doing. So I'm going to kind of wait to see the movement. It's like Matt always says. I mean, if you're liking some of these unders for certain players right now in this game, wait, but if you're liking some overs, jump on them now.
Matt, I'm going to come to you. And the interesting thing, they got Debo Samuel. I'm looking at his number right now. It's up to 40.5 on the rushing. Yeah. Just the rushing numbers. And I'll be honest, I cashed a Debo Samuel ticket on it over his rushing totals. It's just, it's so strange that we're taking the rushing props on a guy that's listed as a wide receiver. What are you looking at for this game in Green Bay on Saturday night?
Yeah, I mean, Debo's rushing overs on my list. I mean, I did my first run through, and I think I'm going to take it, but it's one of those things that I might wait and see. I don't think it's going to have any move to the under. I don't think it's going to go down at all. So it's really one of those things of if I take it, it's going to be tonight before the big over-mageddon tomorrow. But I mean, you look at Debo, 7 of the last 8 weeks, a running back has gone over 40.5 yards against Green Bay, and this feels like one of those games. Look, he got 10 carries last week against Dallas, and the cold temperatures mean the passing game. And look, Jimmy G's dealing with all sorts of ailments, and the cold's not going to help him at all. And one hit, he could be done for the game. So I really feel like Debo is going to be a rushing guy. The wide receiver I'm looking at in this game is Juwan Jennings for the 49ers, because Green Bay's slot corner is Shandon Sullivan, and he's one of the worst slot corners in the league. And you look at a lot of the slot receivers who've had success against this team. I think Juwan Jennings now comes down to, do I want to take the 2.5 receptions, or do I want to take the 26.5 receiving yards? You guys know I like to go away from the beaten path when it comes to this sort of thing. George Kittle's a guy that you could also look at here, but if once again he's used as a blocking tight end, then he's going to go under his numbers, and that's kind of what he's been doing as of late. So I really think the value is with Juwan Jennings. And as Andrew said, I think A.J. Dillon over 40.5 rushing yards. If you look the last 10 games, Dillon has outcarried Aaron Jones 135-82. He's getting a lot more carries. It's cold. He's one of those guys that you want to go and you run into the line over and over and over again. So I think A.J. Dillon's number at 40.5 is a good number right now.
Couldn't agree more. I was actually looking at taking some Aaron Jones under rushing props, whether it's rush attempts or yards, because you look at the first half of the year and Aaron Jones was outpacing A.J. Dillon in carries, and that's completely flipped. And I look at the Packers and go, okay, they've had a lot of time to look at this San Francisco secondary that's banged up and struggles. And I saw what Troy Aikman said about the Cowboys and how they just refused to go to CeeDee Lamb when he had a one-on-one matchup that he was dominant in. And I don't think the Packers are that team that's going to pass up those kind of one-on-one matchups. So I think they're going to use Aaron Jones a lot in the passing game to try and create some really good separation in the secondary. And don't forget the San Francisco team, 7th best rush defense. So LaFleur and Rodgers know that. They've got the advantage with wide receivers in the secondary. I could see a big game from Devontae Adams, and I see Jones being used a lot more in the passing game. And I like that A.J. Dillon touchdown prop. He's going to be their goal line back. I could easily see them spreading it out in the red zone and getting Dillon loose for a touchdown. Let's move on to the next couple games. Matt, coming to you first. Rams and Buccaneers. This should be a good one. And for the Buccaneers, boy, it's all about the injuries, and the people that are not playing, or the ones that will be playing, could be hobbled this week. So what are you looking at for the Rams and the Buccaneers?
So I think a lot of it depends, at least on the Tampa Bay side, with regards to Fournette. If Fournette plays, I think there could be some value on Gio Bernard receiving, because I don't think they're going to have Leonard Fournette be the guy who carries the ball a ton and then catches the passes. So I'll be interested to see if they announce that Fournette is going to play. First off, the books have to actually put up some Gio Bernard numbers, but I think he could become the guy on third down that he was earlier in the season. I think half the stuff with Fournette was that Bernard wasn't available. So I'll be looking at Gio's statistics if Fournette's the starter. If he's not the starter and Keyshawn Vaughn's the starter, then we'll see some different numbers. But of course, the running back position is crazy for Tampa Bay. A couple of things that I'm looking at here. I'm looking at potentially the Mike Evans under. If we see a Jalen Ramsey shadow situation, the Rams have not done it as much, but without Godwin and Brown, why would you not put Ramsey on Evans and just lock him down the whole game? In which case, I'd potentially look at a Tyler Johnson. I think Tyler Johnson's a guy that has gotten a little bit more love from Tom Brady. He dropped that ball early in the game against the Eagles, but then he went right back to him. That's always a good sign when you're, trying to get back into Tom Brady's good graces. And then also, I think that Tom Brady's not going to be able to throw the ball as deep as he likes. The 38.5-yard longest completion, I'm looking at the under there. I almost hit the one against the Eagles, if not for that stinking Mike Evans touchdown that was like a yard or two over the number. Tom Brady's just not throwing it deep. He's matriculating the ball down the field, and I think the Rams, with that pass rush, are not going to give Brady time to throw it deep. So that's one of the other ones I was looking at.
Andrew, what are you looking at? Rams, Buccaneers this weekend.
What I find kind of interesting, and I kind of got this from you, Andy, is first team to get a turnover here. Looking at the LA Rams in this one. And looking at the stats here for Stafford, I thought it was unbelievable. Tied for the league lead in interceptions, and with 17, 13 of which coming since week 19. And so you talk about strength of schedule. You talk about, all of a sudden guys popping up and playing tougher, games and stuff like that. This guy's throwing the ball away, and I think the question in this game is, can you really rely on this guy to not, throw the ball away more than one time? So if you want to specifically look at the interception and not just the turnover, because some books do offer just turnover or interception, but, you can get a fumble and kind of still cash that prop type of thing. But I think it's going to be a run-heavy game, guys. I'm looking at both teams' running backs, really. But when I look at, this game in particular, I think that I look at unders across the board as well for the receptions, because a lot of these guys are just getting absolutely juiced up, and these numbers are just getting a little bit too ridiculous. Even for a guy like Cooper Kupp, this might be the very first week where I'm actually willing to look at an under here for Kupp. And I expect it to be just the amount of time these possessions take for Tampa, and the amount of time that LA will be on the field. And then when they're on the field, the coverage we're going to see Kupp get. And, I think that there's been so many weeks where we've had no problem. Yeah, give me over 110.5 yards. Give me over 100 yards. Give me over 90 yards for Kupp. I think this might be the week, and I'm fine with some rebuttal, Andy. I don't know if you're on the same page here. I see you. But I think this might be the week we could see Cooper Kupp actually get a little bit slowed down, and we might have to see the depth. So I often am on this show talking about overs, but I think this actually could be a decent week for the unders, for not just the star receiver for the Rams, but also potentially for Mike Evans. Might have to go into the bargain bin with some of these receivers and try and find some value down the depth chart. I believe it's going to be a good defensive game. As you can tell, I'm kind of on the under in this game, and I'm going to find some guys to key in and take the under on their yards. So, Andy, can you do it, or could you not do it here with Cooper Kupp?
Well, he went under last week easily, but mostly due to the blowout situation.
Yeah.
He actually, he was under 100 yards against Tampa earlier this season, but he did catch 2 touchdown passes. So if you're looking at Cooper Kupp, maybe a touchdown prop might be a good one to look at. Odell has been a favorite of Stafford's, getting touchdowns. And when we look at some of the other ones, I mean, Mike Evans, had a big game, but it's getting down to just he's one of the only ones left. Like, who else do you trust? Do you want to throw the ball to Mike Evans or Tyler Johnson? I would want to throw the ball to Mike Evans. So I'm with Matt. I need to see what's going to go on with Leonard Fournette. If we don't see Leonard Fournette, we're just going to see Brady throw all day. And then it comes down to the health of that offensive line for Tampa Bay. If those injuries to the Tampa Bay offensive line remain and those guys can't play or are hobbled, the Rams are going to get pressure on Brady. It's going to be a really, really long day. And then I think, Andrew, you're set up really, really nice for a lot of unders. I could see the Rams getting up and Brady struggling if they can't protect him. So last game, and this one on paper looks to be a high-flying shootout. So do we believe in these high numbers, or is this going to be the one that trips everybody up and it's 21-17 and every player prop goes under? So, Andrew, going to come to you first. Bills and Chiefs. What do you expect?
Wouldn't that just be something? Everyone's lining up at the window to bet the over and bet every single player over in this game. That would be something to see in this game. Look, first of all, I think a lot of the props here, depend on which side you're leaning towards in this game, obviously, as far as, where you're looking for and what you kind of expect to happen and what you think both these defenses are capable of doing. But I wanted to say one thing, because Andy and I did a lot of filming this year, recording with Drew Martin for our NFL videos. And one of the teams that we constantly got was the Kansas City Chiefs. And, we're talking about their ATS numbers and kind of, every week we're crapping on them for not covering a spread, but they still won that game by a touchdown. Why am I bringing this up? Because ATS stuff doesn't matter, and kind of game flow is what really matters. And if you take a look at what the Chiefs have done this year compared to years past, they've slowed things down a little bit. Their drives are longer. They've upped themselves in the rankings as far as a possession-based team. I've talked about it with the Seahawks before. I mean, this is a team that could win a game and every drive somehow be 4 or 5 plays when they do well. I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs have changed their style. It's not just a 40-yard bomb to Tyreek every play. They've slowed things down quite a bit. So if I'm you guys out there looking for a prop on the Chiefs this week, I recommend taking a look more at these receptions. I'm not saying you're not going to grab these receiving yards, but this could be a good opportunity to take a look at the receptions. I truthfully think that we're going to see KC. I'm not going to use that word. I've been using conservative. Play conservatively, but I don't think we're going to see as many deep balls downfield unless the game gets out of hand and the Bills are way ahead in this one. And as far as the Bills go, I'm a little bit concerned here looking at some of the numbers for them as well. But I look at a guy like even Dawson Knox at 39.5 yards. That's on DraftKings right now. Love that quote that Josh Allen gave saying that he was trying to throw the ball away and somehow Dawson Knox ended up catching that ball. But when it comes down to it, we know who the eyes are going to be on. It's going to be on Diggs. I think Gabriel Davis is in for, a pretty decent night. But I look at a guy like Knox who's going to fly under the radar. He's a big guy, and it might be a tight end battle on both teams. So, look, I think for both these teams, you're going to see a spread out offense. So, as much as we have a high total here, all the receivers, we've got super, super high numbers. I personally am recommending people to take a look at the reception prop in this game because I think we're going to see a lot of guys get targets. We're going to see the offense spread out quite a bit. And both teams are going to want to try and, march the field and keep possession and keep the opposition off the field. I know it sounds easier said than done. But that's kind of what I'm looking for. And another one, look, I talked about on the show last week, guys, and it went pretty well for me. Why not go back to it again here? Josh Allen with the rushing prop here. Such a dangerous receiving attack. Many guys for them to catch the ball. We know what he's able to do in motion. But the thing with Josh Allen, he's not scared to leave the pocket. Some quarterbacks will do anything they can to avoid leaving the pocket and throwing that ball and finding somebody or throwing it away. Josh Allen, whether it was up the middle or it was down the sideline out of bounds, he was going out of bounds, and I think it helps this team quite a bit. And I think it'll hurt the Chiefs if Mahomes ends up having to do that. But I think looking at the rushing yards for Allen once again this week is a good opportunity. So it should be a great game. I'm looking forward to it. And like I said, I'm looking at some reception yards or receptions a lot more than yards this week for that game.
Yeah, the Josh Allen, this rushing prop has been a fan favorite for a few weeks. Matt, coming to you, Bills Chiefs. We've got Devin Singletary, who's kind of emerging. He's been hitting some of his overs, and then of course, we've got all the stars on Kansas City, but we've also seen Hardman and Pringle kind of step up for Kansas City. So, what are you expecting from this game from a props betting standpoint?
Once again, I mean, this is another, much like Tampa Bay, we don't know how Kansas City is going to deploy their running backs, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I mean, look, I think we all were surprised Jerick McKinnon got as much run as he did. So I think there's going to be some value. And look, if they actually put up Darrell Williams numbers, you might want to look at his under because I think Jerick McKinnon could move into that backup role. I mean, you can't have what he did last week and then just say, all right, you're done. We're not going to use you again. I disagree a little bit with Andrew. I looked at both the Byron Pringle and the Gabe Davis receiving yards. I mean, I think Davis can get 30.5 in one catch. Spoiler alert, that could be my best bet coming up. And then Byron Pringle has seemingly surpassed Mecole Hardman a little bit. And, once again, we've talked about it, like they juice the numbers for these big time guys. And then it's the secondary guys that come into play a little bit. So I love the Pringle receiving yards. I like the Gabriel Davis receiving yards. They're the guys that are the forgotten ones, but they're not forgotten to their quarterbacks. And if this is the shootout that we think it's going to be, I think both guys could see a lot of yards, and there's some value to both of them. So I'm targeting Pringle and Davis in this one.
Just a couple things. I took Tyreek Hill as one of my favorite plays. Tyreek Hill under his 5.5 receptions last week because I thought the heel injury would be an issue. Not only was it an issue, but at one point he was doing backflips in the end zone, which is not something you do if you have a hurt heel. We cashed it, but he had 5 receptions and he didn't play because of the blowout. So I'm going to be looking at Tyreek Hill over 5.5 receptions. He got 5 last week in a blowout and didn't play most of the fourth quarter. Then I'll certainly take him over there. Kelsey, not been padding the stat sheet, but the books are pricing him as if he has been. So, and Matt, I'm with you on Byron Pringle. I like what I've seen. I think the absence of Tyreek Hill in that Denver game really showed what some of those guys can do. And I think they're finding that when they double up Tyreek and when they concentrate on Kelsey, you're getting really, really good matchups. And then I'm on the fence. I can't decide what to do with Devin Singletary. He's gone over his rushing attempts props the last few games. It's just a matter of how much are they going to trust in him. And if we're looking at the rushing yards, Josh Allen at the time of recording this is all the way up to 50.5. And I'll tell you, I don't want anything to do with the under on that, even though it's up to 50. The Bills are at their best when they run that shotgun and they get Josh Allen out in space and he gets to decide what to do. So, all right, gentlemen, Andrew, promote yourself. Tell us what you got going on this weekend. Once again, you can save $20 on a 3-day pass or a 7-day pass at WagerTalk.com or sportsmemo.com. That's good for all three of us. No promo code required. Just go in there, get 3 days, and you're going to get all of our props and plays for 3 days. So, Andrew, talk to us about what you got this weekend. And I don't know, tell us a little about the NHL. Some of us that don't follow the NHL nearly like you do talked about some props that you're seeing.
Well, yeah, it's always nice to have those deals that WagerTalk creates for us. So I don't really have a promo code to give anybody or anything like that. Just those deals, and as much as we always preach, grabbing a long-term package. Hey, if you want to just check us out, a 3-day or a 7-day, especially around this time, on a Thursday, Friday, those are the best days to grab those 3 and 7 days, in my opinion. You get all kinds of plays. So. Look, I always say it's a massive slate on Saturdays for the NHL, but today here on a Friday, we got a pretty decent sized NHL slate. Andy, looking forward to it. Like I said at the start of the show, running pretty hot right now. This week has consisted of a 3-1, a 4-0 has been in there. I mean, there's been lots of great days this week, but the long-term number, the 71% since middle of November, has just been something I'm really proud of. Number one at WagerTalk.com. At the end of October, I was number 14 in hockey, now number 1. So it was definitely a climb to the top. But yeah, prop package for this weekend in the NFL. Super excited. Those packages, as you guys will all know, it's best for people to hop on them. And when you buy those packages, plays are going to be updated throughout the weekend, or throughout today. And it's not going to be everything all at once. So if you're buying those packages, I always get DMs. Make sure you're checking that, or you check your email, you check your membership page, and you will grab those. But, as far as what I'm seeing, for NHL right now, it's the assist props. I mentioned it a couple weeks ago as one of my, segments, Andy. And, I didn't really used to be able to see this. Like, this wasn't really available for a long time. And now I'm seeing it at pretty much every book. So now I can really talk about it even more. But, these point props, like a player to get a point on a top line, Andy, it's just ridiculous. It's minus 250. We had some players, Connor McDavid last night was like minus 320 to get a point. Guess what? The Oilers got shut out 6-0. Okay, he was minus 320 to get a point. Nobody got a point on that team. But, you can try and find better value of, hey, if you think a guy's going to get a point, well, maybe he gets an assist. Maybe he doesn't get a goal. Maybe he gets an assist, primary assist, secondary assist. All of a sudden, you're turning a guy that's like minus 200 to get a point, which is a goal or an assist for people that don't know, to specifically get an assist, you're getting plus 120, plus 130. You're getting good value all of a sudden just for taking away one of the aspects of what a point means, which is, again, either a goal or an assist. So I've been looking at these assist prop quite a bit, especially for some of these wingers that you can just go down at Hockey Reference or Hockey NHL Stats. You can look at so many players, Andy, that have so many points, but it's like, oh, geez, this guy has like 8 goals on the year, but he has like 45 points, or 30 points. Like, what's going on with this guy? So assist props, that's my my prop recommendation for the week with NHL. I mean, if you want to just stay away from some of these goal scoring props, if they're too sporadic for you, look at the assist props. These top guys, they're cashing in, and it's good value as well. What about you?
Love Hockey Reference. That's the best. It makes it so easy to do research on some of these player props. Like, it's literally, you just pull up that page and it takes some time, but everything is right there. So completely agree with you. Matt, talk to us. What do you got this weekend? And I don't know, give us some college basketball information, things that probably a lot more about that we don't.
So yeah, 8-3 the last 2 days, 40-28 the long-term run, and I've got a couple plays in tonight's Toledo, Ohio game, which is on the CBS Sports Network, 6 o'clock Eastern time. Look, I think the thing I've found a lot more value in nowadays is the team totals, and it's the thing I've kind of talked about the most on this show. Is I've gone from I like overs because I think this team's going to do most of the heavy lifting. Well, if that team's going to do most of the heavy lifting, let's just take them. And, there's been some teams like, Idaho and Nebraska, Omaha and Nebraska themselves. And there's a couple of other teams who just play such hideous defense that all you have to do is just basically take the opponent's team total over. And a lot of times you're going to hit. Toledo tonight has one of the best offenses in the country. And at home, they've been regularly scoring 80, 90 points. That was one of my half-point losses a couple of days ago, but they're a team that's just been absolutely incredible at home. Montana State has been a team that has scored a ton of points, and they just are getting consistently low numbers when it comes to their team totals. So to me, if you go into a game and you like an over, but you like an over more because of one team than another, take the team total over, and that way you only have to worry about one half of it. And if you find the opponents of Idaho, Nebraska, Omaha, Nebraska, St. Joe has been a little leaky on defense at times, George Washington, UMass, there's a bunch of teams who are just so bad at defense, and it's a virtual layup line when you go up against them. Take the team totals. That way you don't have to worry about the other team's offense. And more often than not, you'll see those things hit. They're high numbers, but they're high numbers for a reason, and a lot of times they'll hit it.
It's amazing the value when you just get it like niched down just a little bit more, when you're able to take some of the elements out of like an over, like you said, and you're able to narrow it down even more. So great work from Matt Josephs at sportsmemo.com. Andy from WagerTalk.com. We've just been scorching hot this week. We're 16-4 at the Australian Open. That's 80%. I believe we're up 28 units just since last Sunday in tennis. We're 17-3 overall the last 3 days on WagerTalk.com, and NBA 8-3 the last 3 days. We're number one in 30 days. We keep rolling. It's really, really been fun. So all that's on WagerTalk.com. The one thing I would say with NBA props, now that teams are getting all of their players back, you got to start looking at some of these unders. I mentioned someone like PJ Tucker. He was an over machine while Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo was out. Now that both of those guys are back, you go back and look at his game earlier this week. He had 2 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists. So it's like, thank you very much for carrying us while our guys were out. Now that our guys are back, you're only allowed a few shots a game now. So just take a look at that. Cole Anthony is another one that's been suffering for the Orlando Magic from stats-wise. So take a look at some of those unders and don't pull the triggers on the overs right now. Take a look at who's suffering now that all the teams have all their rosters back. All right, gentlemen, let's do our best bets. Let's give the people some actionable infotainment. And I believe this is a first. We're all taking an over on a receiving prop for different people. So Matt, I'm gonna come to you first. Give us our over receiving prop on player number 1. Who do you like this week?
Well, it's funny because mine would have been yours. You put it up first, so I definitely wholeheartedly agree with yours. But I think it's Gabriel Davis on the over there, and it's 30.5 receiving yards. I would get it now. I think it's going to go up by the time it starts on Sunday. I don't think there's going to be anything in the injury report other than him being injured that would tell me any sort of different. You look at his numbers. I mean, look, he's not getting a ton of catches. I had it last week. I was very worried, and then he gets that long touchdown to cinch things there. But you look, 41, 39, 40, 85. He's gone over this number a ton, and I just expect a lot in this game, and I think that Stephon Diggs could get a little extra attention. I think Gabriel Davis is the guy that's moved up to be number 2. Cole Beasley's not doing as much. Isaiah McKenzie's not doing as much. Emmanuel Sanders isn't doing as much. Gabriel Davis, he might only need 2 receptions to get there, but this is a really low number, and I said get this now, over 30.5 receiving yards for Gabe Davis.
I agree with that one. I love he's stepped up in the big games, and coaches and quarterbacks take notice of that. So I agree 100% with that one. Andrew, coming to you, give us another over receiving prop for this weekend.
Well, doesn't everybody love this guy? We got to look for Jamar Chase here, over 76.5 receiving yards. I look at the chemistry, like I said, he's developed with Joe Burrow. Then we can talk about the Tennessee pass defense and how bad that's been. Only second worst at the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, the amount of yards this team gives up, it's absolutely ridiculous. And just what kind of a season has this guy, Jamar Chase. He's averaging 133 yards per game in the last month. On the year, he caught 81 balls in his rookie season. This guy just put up ridiculous numbers, and everyone's kind of wondering, can he continue to do this in, the playoffs and as the games get more competitive? I picture a high-scoring game, and I don't think anything changes here. And taking a look at things, he averaged 187 yards per game. So we're going to get there. We're going to get his average at least and get over this number here in a competitive game. I see a high-scoring game, and I see Chase being involved.
I'm going to finish us off with our last over receiving prop. And I was first one to grab this one. Joe Mixon over 21.5 receiving yards. Just love this number. He's been more involved in the passing game the last few weeks. Excuse me. Last 2 games of the year flew over this number, 70 and 40 yards. Last week, he had 4 catches for 28 yards. I love the targets. 5 targets he got last week. Titans are middle of the road defending running backs in the passing game. And what I like about a number like this is we saw it last week. His number was 20.5, and he had a 21-yard catch early in the game. So this is a low number that you can get on one screen pass. And we saw last week that Samaje Perine got 1 touch, while Mixon had 21. So it's playoff time. Mixon and the best players are going to get all the touches. I love his inclusion in the passing game. I love the over here. It's way too low, and the way to attack Tennessee is definitely through the passing game. So let's do a best bets recap. Myself, Andy Lang at WagerTalk.com, loving Joe Mixon over 21.5 reception yards. Andrew McInnis at WagerTalk.com likes Jamar Chase over 76.5 receiving yards. And Matt Josephs at SportsMemo.com going with Gabriel Davis over 30.5 receiving yards. Want to remind everybody, just go to SportsMemo.com or WagerTalk.com. You can save $20 on a 3-day pass or a 7-day pass. It's the perfect day to do that, as you're going to get all the weekend plays. It includes NFL playoffs, Andrew's NHL, Matt's college basketball, myself, NBA. So go grab that. Thanks, everybody. Hope everyone has a profitable weekend. Have a great NFL playoff weekend, and we will see you next week on Prop It Up.
Why pay the regular price when you can save money on every purchase with WagerBucks at both WagerTalk and SportsMemo? WagerBucks are now eligible for use on not just daily, 3-day, and 7-day passes, but all long-term and seasonal packages up to 1 full year. There are tons of options available for every budget and size of bettor. From low as $100 gets $110, all the way up to $2,500 gets you $3,000. Save every day on every pick you buy with WagerBucks.